Notre Dame is coming off one of its most impressive victories of the early season, and yet in head coach Marcus Freeman's press conference today, a lot of the discourse was about some of the things that the Fighting Irish did wrong in their 28-7 victory over Boise State just a couple of days ago. Jack, I think that's sort of a sign of where this team is and maybe where it's heading, where you can kind of start to nitpick now with this 3-2 Notre Dame team that obviously still has college football playoff aspirations, and that, 21-point victory is nice, but there were a lot of penalties in that game, and it could have been a bigger margin for Notre Dame if not for those. Notre Dame was pretty bad in some short yardage situations, and they left some points on the field in those scenarios as well. So, Jack, kind of some of the things that Marcus Freeman talked about today on those two fronts, what were your takeaways?
To your earlier point, it does kind of feel like the season stabilized a little bit. Like after Miami, Texas A&M, Purdue, it was the defense is on fire. Everything not on fire the good way. Everything is insane, and now they've won a couple games. Defense is better. We don't really need to ask about what the defense did better every week. Although the pass rush did have its best game. Asked about that, but it is kind of the nitpicking time of year, right? When there's not a ton of big picture stuff to ask about, so we can kind of get into the little things. Penalties being one of them. Freeman made the good point that he's okay with the aggressive penalties. The example he used was Luke Talich, a little grab on third and long. He'll live with that, right? What he won't live is false starting on 3rd and goal from the 1. What he won't live is Tay Johnson losing track of where he is on the field and throwing a guy down out of bounds, right? Yep. So those are the things Notre Dame has to clean up. He also talked about the 4th and goal. Our Tyler James asked him about that. The 4th and goal where Jeremiah Love got stopped. He said it's not an excuse, obviously, but Boise State threw a different look than they expected, and they thought they could run right through the C or D gap on the left side. Boise State had a lot of people in the C or D gap on the left side. So just little things like that were kind of talked about today. But I did think the penalties were interesting because it is something that could hurt Notre Dame in a closer game, and it's something that they'd have to clean up before USC.
You mentioned the false starts. Marcus was visibly – he gave a little facial expression that basically is what his reaction would be on the sideline at Notre Dame Stadium when those things happen, because it's the lack of focus penalties is what he called it. It's you can't have those because you're in a situation where you're in short yardage or whatever it is, and you're facing 3rd and 1. That's a lot easier than 3rd and 6.
I think a false start on 3rd and goal from the 1 is probably one of the highest negative EV penalties that you can have.
Yeah, I mean, it can literally be the difference of a touchdown or a field goal, or if you decide to go for it on 4th down, no points. Because if you would have gotten that 3rd and 1 without a false start, then you're in business, obviously. So those are the tough things for Notre Dame. But again, it's coming from a place of, hey, if we clean these up, we're even better. So getting into more just team stuff, I think there's a lot of injury news that we should probably get to here. DeVonta Smith is out against NC State this coming week. That means we're going to see a lot of Dallas Golden. We've already seen a lot of Dallas Golden at the nickel position. He's done a really good job there. But I forget who asked the question, but it might have been our own Eric Hansen about Carson Hobbs.
O'Malley.
Tim O'Malley. Shout out to Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated. It's a good point, though, because it's the same thing when Leonard Moore is out, and he's back, he's healthy. Marcus Freeman had great things to say about him today, just in terms of his leadership when he's on the field. Notre Dame's a completely different football team. But I think Notre Dame's a different football team when DeVonta Smith is healthy, for example, because your 1-2 at nickel with Smith and Dallas Golden looks a lot different than your 1-2 at nickel with Dallas Golden and Carson Hobbs, who's had his struggles this season. So I don't know if you have anything to add on the Hobbs thing, but that's a situation for the NC State game.
Yeah, just some other injury news. Jaden Greathouse with that hamstring injury. It's reported as a right thigh officially, but your hamstring is in your thigh, technically speaking. It is a hamstring, and he is questionable. Cooper Flanagan, they could get him back this week. He tore his Achilles in the Sugar Bowl. Freeman didn't sound super confident that he will play this week. He kind of said, he's getting closer. He did say that Flanagan will 100% reprise a significant role in the Notre Dame offense. He won't displace Eli Raridan. I think even late last year, Raridan was repping as that number 1 tight end, and he's been pretty good so far for the Irish this season. But I do think he will take a lot of Ty Washington's number 2 tight end reps. Maybe even free Ty Washington to do some receiving stuff. He was kind of considered more of a receiver coming into Notre Dame. He's had to do a lot of blocking because that's the role of the number 2 tight end at Notre Dame. So Cooper Flanagan coming back will be another stabilizing force for this Notre Dame offense. He's just a really steady player. He's not going to make a ton of highlight reels, but he is absolutely a useful player that Notre Dame needs back sooner than later. And again, not super confident based on Marcus Freeman's language and mannerisms that he'll come back this week, but going from out to questionable on the injury report, great sign.
Definitely caught my eye when I clicked on that thing and saw, okay, what are we working with here? Cooper Flanagan, questionable. That's huge, especially like you said. He just tore his Achilles in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, this is only 10 months since that. Yeah. So to that point, though, reading between the lines from Freeman, might be on a pitch count early on. I don't think you see 20, 30, 40 snaps from Cooper Flanagan right away. But like you said, with the short yardage stuff, you could see some more 12, 13 personnel, and Notre Dame just say, hey, we've got our big guys back. Let's run at the opponent here to pick up the necessary yardage. So you mentioned Jaden Greathouse. Have we talked kickers yet? No, I don't think we've talked kickers.
And we should.
This is a big one. Noah Burnett, still questionable. It feels so much like the Mitch Jeter situation last year, Jack, where Notre Dame doesn't really know if it has its number one kicker available. So by way of that, you've got all these different guys, Marcelo Diamede and Eric Schmidt, obviously the true freshman who you've seen place kick a little bit. Both of those guys have done that. But both of those guys are clearly at this stage of their careers or who they are talent-wise and whatnot, not number one kickers. And Noah Burnett is a number one kicker. You don't know if you're going to have him in this NC State game or going beyond that. Again, it's kind of like the Mitch Jeter thing. So where is Notre Dame at with that, Jack? And like, how does that affecting how Marcus Freeman is coaching? What kind of football team Notre Dame will be in close games? There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, Freeman said that he had a long conversation with Marty Biaggi, the special teams coordinator, this week, which in Freeman speak means somebody got yelled at. He does sound like he's got a lot of urgency, and this is a concern for him to fix the kicker situation one way or another. Step one is obviously get Noah Burnett healthy. He said that coming in, Burnett might have been like overworked at North Carolina with what they asked him to do. They're trying to strike the balance between like getting him enough reps in practice while not aggravating his right hip injury, which is not a place you want to be with your starting kicker.
Wasn't it the same with Jeter too? It was the groin. Like you can't
like
have
the hip, the groin. It's deja vu all over again for Notre Dame, and of course, happy ending with Mitch Jeter because he was massive in that college football playoff. Obviously, they're hoping for the same from Burnett, but it's certainly not a guarantee. And then the other side, if Burnett can't go, getting either Eric Schmidt or Marcelo Diamede prepared to play. Freeman said that their first approach was with a competition between the two, and that kind of lasted all week at first, and then they continued the competition. He said this time they just need to pick a kicker and stick with it. I don't think he was all that satisfied with the amount of reps each kicker got during the competition, so he said early this week they have to pick either Schmidt or Diamede and stick with him.
It's a confidence thing too. I think Eric Schmidt's probably thinking, if I don't do this well, then Marcelo's going to come up and take my spot. But from the get-go, it's get Noah Burnett healthy first and foremost. And it might be a thing where you got to wait until that second bye week, and then we see the best of Noah Burnett in November. But again, you have a couple of power conference opponents coming up here in NC State and then USC to get to that bye week. So you don't know how these things go. Notre Dame might not beat NC State by 21 points just like it beat Boise State. You might need a big kick, and then USC's an even better opponent than the Wolfpack. So speaking of the Wolfpack, anything in particular that we need to get out there on them before we finish this video up?
Yeah, a lot of injuries on defense, and Freeman made sure to point that out. Offensively, I don't think their overall numbers are the greatest, but they do have some dangerous players. C.J. Bailey, the quarterback, is a good player. Hollywood Smothers, the running back, can hurt you. Justin Jolly, the tight end, he was on a lot of kind of third-team All-American, All-ACC lists heading into the season. He's a good player, 28 receptions so far this season. They have some ways they can hurt you on offense, but this Notre Dame team should be able to score basically whenever they want against NC State.
In that way, it kind of feels like the Boise State game. I know that Notre Dame only scored 28 points in that game, but we mentioned it at the beginning of all of this. A lot of points were left out there. Very clearly did a lot of great things on offense. You'll like this, Jack, on our round table. I know you're not a big total yards guy. You look at the yards per play and those types of things. Notre Dame averaged 7.2 yards per play in that football game. Last year, if that was a season-long average, they would be number 3 in the country, right ahead of kicking out who was number 3 in the country, Ohio State, at 6.9, I believe. Very nice yards per play average for the Buckeyes on their way to the national title. And this year it would be top 15, and that's a smaller sample size with a lot of these teams playing non-conference opponents. Like, those numbers are going to go down. So, again, Notre Dame was just fine offensively in that football game, and I kind of agree with you. That's probably what we see against NC State.
And we should note that Freeman made sure to point out that every time Notre Dame did not commit a penalty on a possession, they scored a touchdown. And he said that he made sure to say that's not the only reason, but it is certainly a reason. And you saw in short yardage the false start at the goal line. You saw 2 straight penalties put the Irish. I think it was a holding on Anthony Knapp, and then an offensive pass interference on Eli Raridan. Put the Irish in 2nd and 30-something. You're not going to score when that's the case. So as long as they avoid beating Notre Dame, as Marcus Freeman likes to say, I think they should be fine.
Yep. So we will be here on Saturday to cover that game, NC State at Notre Dame. But between now and then, ton of video content here at the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. And then obviously go to blueandgold.com for all of our written work as well. So that's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka, and we will see you guys next time.